A strong and healthy Mars in our consciousness will exhibit the traits of Mars in Capricorn, which is the opposite sign of Cancer, where Mars is debilitated. So Capricorn is the zodiac sign or the energetic environment where Mars's agenda is the most compatible with, where Mars is thriving. But remember, this doesn't mean that if you have Mars in Capricorn in your natal chart, that Mars will automatically be thriving in your life and the way that you express your Mars. The expression of each planet is very multifaceted, and it needs work and it needs exercise to stay in shape, so to say. Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, and Mars and Saturn are the two planets in our consciousness that are motivated by tamas. So in Vedic philosophy, there are three basic motivations in life in general. One is sattvic, the second is rajasic, and the third is tamasic. So the sattvic motivation is the inner inspiration to do something. Rajasic motivation is the motivation to enjoy the material manifestations of something in your life and to improve your life in the material sense. And then the tamasic motivation is to remove yourself from some kind of experience. So Mars and Saturn are the two planets that get activated when we find ourselves in an undesirable situation. So these are the two planets that deal with what we consider to be the problems in our life. We want to get ourselves out of a problematic situation, and we use Mars and Saturn in different ways, but those two planets are activated to get us out of what we consider to be something undesirable, something we want to remove ourselves from. Mars is exalted in Saturn's sign Capricorn because Capricorn is the zodiac sign of concrete material survival and the ability to make grounded movement and changes to enhance our ability to live longer, to survive. So Capricorn in Vedic philosophy is a crocodile, and in earlier times, or it's described as Nakra, and Nakra in earlier times was a ferocious sea creature with armor-like skin and could have been a kind of a sea monster, and it was probably an ancestor to the modern day crocodile. So the Nakra beast, the Nakra animal, was the apex predator of that period of time. And so the animal symbol of Capricorn shows that this sign has an apex predator kind of mindset, where nothing will get in a person's way to getting what one needs to survive. So that's a kind of an ability of Capricorn. And so Capricorn people, or people with Capricorn dominance in their chart with a lot of emphasis on that sign, they're known for their ability to very slowly but surely make progress in their life. And when a moment calls for them to snap into action or make a very decisive momentary decision that will improve the material situation, they grab at it. But an animal that can survive from ancient times until now, that is the show of the incredible ability because of their biology to survive for so long. Even if it's the crocodile is the ancestor, it's a species that had this long-term survival ability. And that's what a Capricorn mindset person has, this how do I get through tough periods of time? How can I survive a difficult world over the long term? So what makes Mars so compatible in Capricorn is that Capricorn is this ability to have a cool and collected demeanor and a very direct and calculated way of navigating the world. So the fiery nature of Mars that is moving and has this kind of inspiration to solve a problem, but can do so quickly and wants to do so quickly, in Capricorn helps Mars to restrain that fire to a point and to exert that fire, that passion and willingness and willpower to execute a certain kind of plan. It can do that in a very direct and specific way. And in the same way on how a crocodile won't just lash out whenever it smells food, but it waits and it creeps up on the prey and waits for this certain moment to strike. So an exalted Mars in our consciousness, the healthy Mars in our consciousness, has this ability to use logic very coldly, carefully, and calculated, almost cunningly, and is unemotional in survival situations because it's so hyper-focused on accomplishing the goal. So in a survival situation, you don't have time for anything that doesn't have to deal with the problem at hand. And so a strong Mars in your consciousness, whether it's in Capricorn or not, will get rid of all of the distractions and hyper focus on that single goal that needs to happen. And will do so extremely logically and extremely carefully. And that's a very great quality to have. But remember, as I talk about so much, we don't want to use that quality all the time. It's a very inherently stressful kind of situation. But in those situations, a good Mars is not going to be distracted by emotions and will just target the goal and do what it takes to get to that goal. And since Capricorn is an earth sign, that means that it's involving us in concrete material activities. So when Mars is in Capricorn, or an exalted Mars consciousness, it's concentrating oneself on what problems need to be taken care of in the immediate grounded sense. So this exalted Mars consciousness uses problem-solving skills and strategy in the most practical way possible. So Capricorn is also a movable sign, meaning that it's a change maker sign. It's a sign that gives the ability to adapt and change and modify things in our life, to make moves essentially. And the best kind of strategist is someone that's able to make changes on the fly and is really always making some kind of change or adjustment when it comes to resolving a kind of problem. So new factors, when we're dealing with any kind of problem, new factors are always coming into play. And exalted Mars consciousness is taking in all of that information and then changing what they believe that they should be doing and able to make those adjustments and moving around. And Mars is always moving to and fro and not stubbornly sticking to a plan with minimal changes made, just kind of muscling through something as much as using all your strength to just keep the path. No, you want to be making changes on the path and be able to be fluid in that movement. And Mars that doesn't want to be making a lot of changes, just wants to grind it out, is the kind of mentality that someone with Mars and Taurus would have, because Taurus is a fixed sign. It's an earth sign, so it's about practicalities, but fixed meaning that it wants to stick to something towards the end. But Mars does best when it has that ability to make those adjustments. And so a movable sign like Capricorn is best for that use of Mars. So another interesting way that Mars does so well in Capricorn is that Capricorn is a female sign, and while Mars is a male planet, and actually Mars is a very male planet. It's about doing things in the material world, externalizing energy, and about initiating and asserting oneself outwardly. And those are very male qualities. So Mars does well in male signs in general because it enhances that ability to outwardly push to do things that you desire to do, and does well specifically in Leo and its own sign, Aries. But when Mars is complemented by female energy of the female signs, you can really see some of the best qualities and traits of Mars come out. And don't forget that Mars rules a female sign, Scorpio, and female signs are the introversion of energy and about the introspection and growing internally. So that introspective side that Mars uses by ruling Scorpio is about doing the internal battles. So expressing an exalted Mars in our consciousness requires being able to not always be in action mode and being in assertion mode, but to complement that by being able to receive information from the world, to be receptive, and then internalize the information that you're receiving, those feminine qualities. So think of a general who's conducting a strategy in a battle or in a war room situation. And of course, Mars is the commander of the planetary kingdom, and Mars is in charge of implementing the orders given by the king and queen. So Mars receives orders from the two planets that rule our individuality, the sun and moon, and it's Mars's role to figure out how to make those commands given to him, how to make them work. So the very simple example I use is that, say you say, the sun saying, I want to be at this point in 5 years of my life. I have this vision. I want to be here. And the moon says, if I'm there, I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to be fulfilled. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have greater happiness internally. Then those two look at Mars and they say, all right, so come up with a strategy to figure that out. That's how things are happening internally. You have the sun and moon creating this vision, or the sun creating the vision, the moon saying, yep, that'll make me happy. And I'll feel fulfilled if I can adapt myself into that situation. And they say, okay, how do we do it? That's when Mars comes into play. What's the strategy? How are we actually going to implement the plan of action to get there? So back in the war room situation, there are moments when the commander who's in charge of implementing the strategy, he has to listen to his lieutenants, the people that work under him, bringing new information about the plan. And then first, Mars has to receive the information from the king and queen. Mars isn't going rogue and just doing whatever he feels like he wants to do in the moment. And we talked about do as thou wilt, having this will, and the most important thing in your life is what you want to do. This pure Mars, I'm just going to fulfill what I want to do in every moment. No, he's got to listen to the commands of our individuality and our higher selves. And then at the same time, he's got to be taking in other information about the plan that's happening. Say Mercury, gathering of information, taking that information in, and then adjusting whatever the strategy is according to what he's bringing in. So the commander, Mars, needs to be in receptive mode. He can't just be giving orders all the time and trying to use strength, mental or physical strength, to get out of every problem. Battles and wars are lost when the commander that's in charge of implementing the strategy, the lead problem solver to end the war, to win the war and to therefore end the war, the battles and wars are lost when he stops listening to the lieutenants and he becomes out of touch with the reality on the ground. So Mars has this really important feminine receptive quality that is integral for any kind of success. So a strong Mars is very, very keen on observing the reality in front of you and logically juxtaposing the information with information that could be bad news to you, all in order to generate the most effective plan of action possible. So the feminine aspect of Capricorn gives this ability of Mars to observe, to receive information that's going on, to monitor the situation at hand before making a decision or doing something really decisive. So a very healthy Mars in our consciousness is patient. And we're going to talk about patience here a little bit shortly. But very, very importantly, Mars is willing to be wrong and to not feel emotionally damaged by being wrong, or to feel that the ego is being threatened because your opinion or your idea was wrong. So a major element of Mars in our consciousness is our opinions, as we talked a lot about, and what we believe should or shouldn't be done in our own life, and then extended outwards to the rest of the world. That should and shouldn't and ought not. A strong and healthy Mars will actually like to be wrong, and really think about that idea of liking to be wrong. How many people like to be wrong? And why would you like to be wrong? Or why would you prefer, or you aren't bothered or even enjoy being wrong? And so really think about that. And as you think about that, take a look at the world around us and politics and all of the fighting and all of the debates that are going on. Everyone wants to be right or to be correct, or they think they're right or correct. And they want to tell other people that they're incorrect and that your way of doing stuff, your concepts, your Mars isn't right. Actually, my way's right. So this is all Mars conflict, the debates about ideas, the best ways of action and moving forward. In a million areas of life, you can think about how people nowadays, it's becoming more and more tense about these concept wars, you could say. Some people call it an information war. And in a lot of ways it is, saying my information is better than yours is worse than mine, which is kind of like a Mercury war. The most true information is going to win, and we have the best information, yours is going to lose. And that information battle and having all the facts. But really, when you think about it, it's a belief war. People are running in circles and fighting about their beliefs, their concepts. And that's all Mars. It's all the ideas that we have about what should or shouldn't be done. And those are the precursors for the physical war. If a physical war happens, it basically begins with differing beliefs on what should and should happen. So it's all Mars. It's not really about the actual information. It's about these concepts that people have. So if you take a step back and question your beliefs and whether or not your beliefs really matter in the larger context of the world, is making a social media post about your beliefs really going to change the trajectory of how things are going? Do your beliefs really matter to those with power, with material power in the world? Now, these are really important questions, all pertaining to Mars, and that having the healthy ability to understand what you believe, because it's one thing to desire for the world to be better. Most people want the world to be a better place for all people. But what's the best strategy getting there? And you can really look at, once you observe, using your Mars ability to observe a problem, you can see that the online belief war, it's a trap, because every year you see more and more people realizing that they're isolating themselves into this hole. And then technology companies, they know how to continue to isolate you and to make you not see other contradictions to your beliefs. And now, if you have the wrong belief, according to those who wield power, they'll just use that against you in all these different ways. They could take away your bank account. They can just remove you from their platforms. And now some people are even going to jail for what they believe, because these people think that their belief is so important that they need to spread it out. But again, it's like a trap. It's just being used against you. So you have to step back and say, what's the best strategy for me to have a belief system, feel good about that belief system, but do I really need to project that belief onto other people and fight with other people about what I think? So I'll return to the idea of being wrong in a second, but this mentality isn't being fatalistic. It's simply saying that there are problems that you can solve in your life, and there are problems that you can't solve that don't pertain to your life. So for the vast majority of people, fighting with other people online about beliefs and about political ideas isn't actually improving your life. And it's Mars's job in our consciousness to do things that improve our life, to get better at things, to solve problems that need to get solved, all pertaining to you. And it's some people's role in society to engage in those cultural conflicts or those culture wars or those political battles. It's their duty, it's their role as a person. But if you're just a dentist and you feel the need to debate with people about politics with your clients, or you're just a store clerk and you're picking fights on social media, or you are known for a really strong political belief, you have to step back and really ask yourself, are your opinions really that important? Does having a strong opinion and expressing it outwardly, is it improving your life? Or is it just causing you to become more and more frustrated, constantly in that Mars fight, flight, or freeze, stressful cortisol, fight, attack, and defense mindset? Is it really helping you to have these strong opinions? So a healthy Mars will understand when putting effort towards something may just be a waste of time, and especially when it comes to your concepts of how to do things and your opinions. So an unhealthy Mars wants to stick its nose into situations that it doesn't belong, and it wants to be helpful, of course, in solving other people's problems. Or an unhealthy Mars thinks it knows what's best for other people. So depending on how a person goes about doing that, it boils down to trying to tell other people what to do and how to live their life. So depending on what level you take it, it's that tyrant mentality. I know what's best for you, and are you going to actually force them to do what you're going to do? Well, that's what a tyrant is. So I think people these days need to back off and ease off their Mars consciousness and loosen up and not get bent out of shape when someone doesn't think the same thing as you, especially when it's not doing anything to improve your life. So a healthy Mars knows when it's time to be on offense and when it's time to be on defense. So for example, if someone's trying to tell you what to think or what to do that contradicts what you want to do and what you think, one healthy Mars strategy is to say, thank you for your input, but no thanks. I'm not going to do that. And then just let the situation go. So the toxic Mars person in that situation that's trying to force their beliefs, they're not going to accept the no. And then how far are they going to take it? Are they going to try to actually force you to do what they want you to do? So it's important to be conscious of, are you that person that is not accepting no and won't leave other people alone and trying to force beliefs and ideas? So you have to know the limits of your influence. And at the same time, of course, be able to defend your livelihood and defend yourself. It's not just letting people walk all over you and being a pushover when someone is actually trying to threaten you with some kind of physical force. But it's key to know, when is that threat real or not? When is that threat actually going to be a consequence to your life? Because you can always step back, and a healthy Mars is able to see that person has no meaning to me. What they think of me doesn't matter. What their beliefs of me don't matter. We believe different things, and that's okay. I'm not forcing my beliefs. I'm not going to let them force their beliefs onto me. and just let it go. That's a healthy way to deal with a problem because you're realizing that they're not an actual threat. And so back to what I was saying about being wrong and liking being wrong, a healthy Mars is a very open Mars. It's open to opinions changing. And you can have a strong opinion about something, maybe you're an expert at it, but very few of your opinions need to be rock solid throughout your life that will never change. That's an unhealthy Mars. Life is change. And your ideas, your concepts, your Mars concepts about life are going to change inevitably. A person who believes the same things, has the same exact opinions they had 25 years ago, they're not evolving. Your beliefs should be changing every single day, and that's a healthy Mars. So really, a healthy Mars consciousness is someone who not only allows their opinions to change, but they have very few opinions that are very strong. And they don't really feel the need to have strong opinions because they realize those opinions are always changed. Those people who one day they have a really strong belief and then a year later they have a really strong belief that's the opposite of the belief that they previously had. These people are way too intense. They need to back off. On one hand, yeah, it's good they're changing, but does it have to be so forceful and strong? It's like an exaggeration of your Mars consciousness to feel the need to believe something so intensely. So a healthy Mars enjoys being wrong because it's a great opportunity to become correct. And it's a perfect learning opportunity. The unhealthy Mars is presented with information that's contradictory and it's defensive and it feels attacked. And Mars gets activated when it feels the need to solve a problem when someone is not agreeing with you. So it's so key to see a situation where you see, oh, wow, I was wrong. That's good because now I can become more correct. Maybe I'm not 100% correct, but more correct. And like the general in a war room or just any kind of strategy situation in your life, when you're playing things out and you say, okay, this is going to work. Someone says, that's not going to work. And you say, it might not work, but I think it'll work because of this, 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 and this, and this, all these reasons. And the person says, well, it won't work because of this, 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 and this. And you're always open to that person being right, still being able to hold your ideas logically that you think you're right. And you can work with the ideas, always saying that, I might have not seen some kind of detail. This is a great Mars. And this is how people who can rise really high in success in life, that's how they think. And that's how people can be great winners in life. They're always readjusting and always being open to not having all the answers and always wanting, but then at the same time wanting the answers or wanting to know what is the best way to do something. So that's an open Mars, willing to adjust and change opinions, not hold something on so tight, have the innocence and lack of pride and ego to say that I can't be wrong in something. That's unhealthy. So it's so key to not hold on to, with intensity, your opinions, and to always say, take a grain of salt with whatever you think, have an open mind, and to really not take your ideas too seriously, and to let them frustrate you and to stress you out when you're holding on too tight. And those are all negative Mars behaviors. So another common trait of a very Capricornian person, or someone who has a very heavy emphasis of Capricorn in their chart, is that they have this ability to bear heavy burdens in a long-term kind of situation. They can deal with problems or stresses over the long haul and to be able to, bear burdens. And they are not very impulsive, Capricornian people, and are known for their work ethic. And so Mars, as we talked about, is such a movement-orientated planet, moves around a lot, can think quickly on its feet, is actually the planet of exercise and training and physical exertion. And it wants to be solving problems as quick as possible. So Capricorn ability is great for Mars because it allows Mars to be more patient and to not give in to impulsive behavior. And even more importantly, to be able to see that life is a marathon and not a sprint. So Mars is this immediate problem solver. When it's in Capricorn, it still has that immediate problem solving ability, but it's able to see that there's a long trajectory and that expending energy really quickly will wear you out. So it's best to conserve energy and to see the long struggle that could be ahead, to be able to see the bigger picture. And that's what Capricorn does via Saturn, because Saturn is the slowest moving planet, it does things over very gradually throughout life. So Mars in Capricorn, and a healthy Mars is patient and willing to wait, and is able to restrain that impulsivity aspect that Mars can be when Mars is unhealthy. So I know people with Mars in Capricorn in their chart, in their natal chart, and even these people can have explosions of anger during their life. And so that means that just having Mars in Capricorn doesn't automatically give you a fantastic Mars. Without any exceptions, it's going to be great for life. We have to work on each planet and understand each planet. And so just having Mars in that great position, you're not going to have a perfect Mars. But one trait that these people can have on a healthy Mars is so after a moment where they say they let their anger take over and they can calm down, they are able to see that the efforts and the reason why they're angry, they can put it in a larger perspective and understand that one battle is not going to make or break your life, and that life progresses very gradually, and that any kind of effort you're putting forward needs to be sustained in improving whatever you want to improve. So I'm going to pick on my father again, and he has an exalted Mars in his natal chart in Capricorn. And he used to have kind of road rage problems. So he would get really angry at other drivers on the road. I can remember many instances of him yelling and swearing. Something happened that another driver did something that he didn't like. So one day I was already in college, but he told me he had this epiphany where he was driving to work. It was about 7:30 in the morning, and there was this road, and it's 2 lanes, but then it merges into 1 lane to get onto this ramp. And so he was driving, the speed limit, maybe a little bit above, and this car comes flying behind, and he's trying to catch up with my dad so they can speed in front and cut him off and get in front of him and speed. And so my dad, and normally in that situation, would speed up and get angry at this person for trying to get in front of him so quickly and so out of control. But so in that situation, he had this epiphany that said, does it really matter? Who cares? And he just lets up on the gas, lets the person fly in front of him, speed away. And he just didn't allow the situation to frustrate him. But when you think about it, it is this realization that there's a bigger picture to this. I'm not going to get to work any faster. Who cares what that other person is doing? There's a bigger, I'm going to save myself the stress. I'm going to save myself the frustration. I'm going to save myself the gasoline that I'm not pressing on the pedal. So it's an example of being able to use that Capricornian ability of seeing the bigger picture, of being able to see it's a long-term process. Life is this gradual improvement, and not letting that intense moment of a problem happening to really cloud your ability to see the bigger picture, to see the long-term progress of getting to work that day. So it was a breakthrough moment for him that he stopped having road rage. He stopped caring so much about other drivers and seeing that you're basically going to get there at the same time, just with a lot less stress attached to it. So this long-term ideology that Mars can have, this healthy Mars, being able to look at things from a bigger picture, to see that things require sustained effort, and things really the biggest and best things in life, the most successful people are able to sustain effort for long periods of time and not to wear themselves out. And this is especially important for athletes and Mars is very important for athletes, to have that sustained practice and discipline to become better and better year after year over time. So all athletes know that just talent and the abilities alone, it's only going to take you so far. And there are many less talented athletes that work twice as hard and become much more successful than really talented people because of their work ethic. And work ethic is such an important Capricorn trait. And Capricorn can be a very successful person because it's able to carry people over long distances and long periods of time. And Rome wasn't built in one day. You have to sustain that effort, sustain that ability to practice and improve Mars, to exert energy internally and externally over the long haul. And so that long-term perspective of Capricorn from Saturn being the slowest planet really shows how a person can become very successful. And we talk so much about Mars and how it's such a mental planet, but our ideas and concepts about what we ought or ought not to do. So Capricorn supports this attribute of Mars, and it makes Mars very mentally tough. So an exalted Mars in a person's consciousness is able to really withstand the blows and setbacks in life without it shaking their courage to continue on and to continue fighting for what your vision for what you want to gain is. So a healthy Mars is able to absorb punches by life and not get discouraged or disorientated, because no one gets through life unscathed. So a great Mars is able to take pride and to really build self-confidence even by having a few scars to show the fights that you've been engaged in physically or also but metaphorically, that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I remember reading Miles Davis's autobiography, and he was a really sickly person. He had a lot of accidents and kind of brush-ups with other people. And he said once in the autobiography, I'm really proud of my scars. I show them off because it really shows this kind of tenacity, this ability to not be afraid of life and to show that, like I said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So that's showing that the struggles of life, like Capricorn, being able to deal with the difficulties of life and the survival situations, the long-term struggle, to be able to allow that to make you mentally tougher and even physically tougher, to be able to say, yeah, I got through that situation. It took a lot of tenaciousness. It took a lot of focus, but I got through it and I'm stronger for it. And that's a really healthy Mars mentality. And again, you can really put that back to the Nakra or the crocodile with the armor-like skin, able to take a bite or a claw from another predator animal without it stopping its attack. And you'll see some crocodiles, they have really intense scars on their bodies, but they're still surviving. And even, you could think of another predator animal, a shark. They have really thick skin as well. They can withstand attacks from other creatures and other battles, even with human beings. And they're still swimming along, they're still going. So in the same way, Mars, especially mentally, it's not deterred that easily, and it's not going to allow complex problems or threats, having to deal with other people that are an obstacle to where you want to go. It's not going to allow those things to deter you and to make you feel that you can't get where you want to go. And I think that a very healthy Mars, to an extent, in a balanced kind of way, these people enjoy conflicts. And that's not to say that they go picking fights. I talked about in the second video, they're not trying to make other people fight for them and not picking fights themselves, but they look forward to solving problems. They're not afraid of problems. They don't see everything around them as a threat, but they enjoy using the logic in their mind and the ability it can be fun to solve a problem, because at the end, once you solve it, you feel really good. So a nice, healthy, quality Mars enjoys those situations where they get to activate that ability to even creatively problem solve, think outside the box on how to resolve a problem or get yourself out of a tight situation. So a healthy Mars has this perspective that life is full of conflicts and that shying away from them is really not an option, but it's really all about learning how to deal with the conflicts most effectively and logically. So it's a person who is looking forward to getting over obstacles in life and finding a way to enjoy that process and not feel very stressed out by it. So a great Mars is also not, when they're using their Mars, they're not stressed out about having to solve a problem. They're not letting emotional frustration or anger to seep in there and to try to interfere with their ability to solve the problem. They can go at it directly, they can go at it efficiently, use as little energy as they need to, and they can also have a lightness about it, that they can change their opinion about the best way to do it, and they're able to really be light on their feet is a good way to think about it, not letting the burdens of life cause more stress than is necessary. So a great healthy Mars is able to take conflicts in stride, and then once those conflicts are resolved, to be able to move on and enjoy the other parts of your life.